Bride of Christ, New Jerusalem. The concept of the Bride of Christ and the New Jerusalem holds profound significance in Christian theology, representing the culmination of God's redemptive plan for humanity as described in the Bible, particularly in the book of Revelation. This imagery carries deep spiritual and eschatological meaning, offering believers a glimpse into the ultimate union between Christ and His church, as well as the glorious future awaiting believers in the New Jerusalem. The metaphor of the Bride of Christ is introduced in the New Testament, where it signifies the intimate relationship between Jesus Christ and His followers. The Apostle Paul uses this analogy in his writings, describing the church as the bride and Christ as the bridegroom. This metaphor draws upon the rich imagery of ancient Jewish wedding customs, where the bridegroom would prepare a place for his bride and then return to claim her. Similarly, Jesus prepares a place for His followers in heaven and promises to return to gather them to Himself. The apex of this imagery is found in the book of Revelation, a prophetic and symbolic work that unveils the events surrounding the end times. In Revelation 19:7-9, the marriage supper of the Lamb is described, symbolizing the union of Christ and His church. The church, represented as the bride, is adorned in pure, fine linen, symbolizing the righteous deeds of the saints. This grand celebration represents the culmination of God's redemptive plan, where believers are united with Christ in a perfect and eternal union. The concept of the New Jerusalem is closely intertwined with the idea of the bride of Christ. In Revelation 21, John witnesses a vision of a new heaven and a new earth, and he sees the New Jerusalem descending from heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. This city is described as a place of incomparable beauty, where God dwells with His people, wiping away every tear and eradicating sorrow, pain, and death. The New Jerusalem is not just a physical city but also a symbol of the perfected and redeemed people of God. It represents the culmination of God's redemptive work, where the relationship between God and humanity is fully restored, and His glory shines forth in an unblemished creation. The imagery of the city's foundations adorned with precious stones signifies the unshakable nature of God's promises and His eternal covenant with His people. The convergence of the Bride of Christ and the New Jerusalem reflects the ultimate purpose of God's plan for creation. The union of Christ and His church represents the consummation of a divine love story, where believers are united with Christ in a bond that transcends time and space. The New Jerusalem, on the other hand, represents the eternal dwelling place of God's people, characterized by perfect communion with God and one another. In conclusion, the concepts of the Bride of Christ and the New Jerusalem hold deep theological and spiritual significance in Christian belief. They encapsulate the culmination of God's redemptive plan, portraying the profound intimacy between Christ and His church and the promise of a glorious future in the presence of God. These images inspire believers to persevere in faith, knowing that they are part of a grand narrative that leads to an eternal union with their Savior in a heavenly city where God's glory reigns supreme.